Hi everyone, welcome back to Plastic Models by Regular Dude and part number 5 of the Dragon 1/35 scale SdKfz 251/21 drilling. Before I get started, I just wanted to let you know that there will be an ultra condensed version of this video posted as well that just gives a recap of these steps 10 through 12, and you can reach that via the link in the description box or on the link at the end of this video. Okay, last time in part number 4, I did steps 10 through 12, and I explained in depth and great detail in the non-condensed version how I got all this stuff to fit mostly. So today, we move on to step 13, which starts with the tracks. Then we'll move on to the gun mount and all that sort of stuff. So let's get cracking. Let's talk tracks. So there are 2 different kinds of tracks in this kit. And in this illustration on the instructions, you can see there's this one here and this one here. This one here, the track pads have looks like a metal cleat on it. The others are smooth. So there and there, you can see like the metal cleat right there and right there. Let me get a pointer. Metal cleat there and there. Okay, so those are the 2 types that are available. And it says use either or, so it doesn't specify one over the other. Now, the ones on the left with the metal cleat come in bags. Cleats here, track links here. Now, the nice thing about these is they're already cut off and supposedly ready to go. And I'll tell you why I say supposedly in a minute. But you've got the main track links and the pads. And here's what they look like. Let's see if I can show you what they look like. Okay, they look pretty good. Track, pad. All right, so that is the one style. That's the one that comes in the bag. Then there are some that come on the sprue, and some of them have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to make 5 cuts on almost all of them to have 1 link and 1 pad. Is that a bummer? Not really, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But here is what they look like. Okay, just plain pad, no cleat or anything, and that part there. All right, so that is the 2 styles. Now, why would one be better than the other? Well, these are nice because they already come pre-cut and in the bags, or pre-cut and ready to go, supposedly. And then you have these that have to be cut off, possibly a little cleanup. Well, with these here, I have found that there were a few of these links that have some flash on them. Now, flash is not really that big a deal, but some of the flash is down around that really tiny pin, which is crucial for it to be able to move. And it does help if they move when mounting them onto the vehicle. So there's something to think of. All right, these here, there is no flash. They're sprue gates, that's it. The ones that come in the bags have ejector pin marks, 2 on each link. And here's the deal with those ejector pin marks. Some of them are pretty flush, some of them are depressed, and some of them project outwards. So like the ejector pin mark is higher than the surface of the actual truck itself. So it could be trimmed, sanded, whatever. The ones below the surface, they're pretty shallow, so you could probably just sand that whole part and pretty well make it disappear, or you could just leave them and not worry about it since there's going to be dirt and junk like that put on there. These here, there are no ejector pin marks, none. The ones that come on the sprue don't have any. because they have these cool little deals here that allow this thing to be popped out of the mold. So it's kind of a toss-up. But what about cutting them off of the sprue, you might ask? Well, let me show you how easy it actually is. So I'm going to put these over here out of the way for a moment and show you just how easy it is. So all you have to do, now I have a really nice set of cutters here, the Tamiya cutter, and it is very precise. So if you get this thing right up against the part and cut it, right up against the part and cut it, right up against the part and cut it, right up against the part, cut it, right up against the part, cut it, and you're done. Now, if there is any sprue gate left over, it is a minimal amount and is super easy to just buzz done. Okay, so that is a big, I'd say it's a plus, because sanding these off of these flat edges seems like less work. And keep in mind, with these cutters, it's not necessary to do it to every one. It's less work than cleaning up a bunch of ejector pin marks. All right, so that's that aspect that is pretty groovy about these. Now the next thing is the way that the pad mounts onto the link, and how it works together to move. All right, so this, I'm going to try and show this on camera, but what happens is, well, you know what, this is a good time to show you my jig. Put these together, regardless of which type I use. I created this little jig out of some evergreen I-beam / H-beam type stuff. So all you have to do is drop the link right there like that. Drop the next link in place, making sure that those pins drop into these little slots. Then taking your track pad, carefully hold it like this. This has a round pin here and two small pins. The larger round pin, the larger pin, is what centers it on the track link. The smaller pins are what trap the pins on this other piece inside of the previous piece. So by putting that in place, you've now trapped this link under this pad onto this link here, so you have a flexible link. And to glue them together, it's just a matter of taking Tamiya extra thin and touching it to this side of the pad, right in the middle where the pad comes in contact with the link, with just a very little bit of glue on the brush, and let it seep through, and then just push it down into place, and then you have a workable link. Now I didn't glue that one because, you know, I'm going to do that in a minute. So that is how that one works. Now these other ones, they have it's kind of the opposite. So the protruding part is on the link. So the link goes here like, whoops, it's backwards. The link goes here and here in the same way. The two pins drop into the two little slots on that track there. Okay, now here's a couple things to take note of. Number one, these pins don't sit as far down inside of the previous link as they do on the others, thereby creating a little bit more possibility of the link sticking. So then this has a rectangular hole that matches the rectangular protrusion there, and it has two small pins that trap the other link just like that. Okay, now this one's backwards, but you get the idea. Okay, now the problem with this one is you can't touch the glue from the outside because it doesn't make good enough contact for this to be glued onto the link. And because I believe that because of the way you got the protrusion from the bottom instead of the top, there's more of a possibility of the glue sticking the two pieces together, the two links together, and them not being workable. All right, so, and the rectangular portion there, protrusion, is smaller than the rectangular hole, so it's a sloppy fit. So touching the glue from the outside, it's not going to seep into where you want it as well, I think. And putting a little bit of glue on top of there or inside of there, that is dangerous. I tried it, putting it in here, dropping it on there, and it didn't stick that great. So there you go. So all those things considered, I decided to use the tracks with the smooth pads, the other tracks, not these. Now, I'm not saying these are bad tracks. I'm not saying they won't work, but to me it's a little more risky, and I don't want to get through a whole bunch of them, have stuff start sticking and all that kind of stuff. I just find the other type to be a little bit easier to work with. The nice thing is I have a full set of tracks there in case I ever need them for another project, so that's a good thing. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I think I want to put the old camera on time lapse and show how I put a few of these links together. Now, as you can see, I've already got some together. As a matter of fact, I've got a whole run together already, and I'm working on the next, but I wanted to make sure I had a good system going down before I wasted time on camera. Another thing to note real quick before I start that is nowhere does it tell you on here how many links you need. Doesn't say. So what I did is I just put a bunch together, wrapped it around the suspension, the running gear, and kept going until I figured out how many I needed. And I'll tell you that in a minute because I haven't actually counted the number on the full track run yet. But now I'll switch it over to time lapse, and I will cut some tracks off of the sprue, and then I will assemble them. There you go. It's that easy. So it's just a matter of linking them together, and it actually goes pretty quickly. But one more thing I wanted to mention, these are directional, the pads and the holes that are in them. Okay, the track pad, this is the gluable side of the track pad. There are 3 pins, like I said. There's the center pin, the large one, and then 2 smaller pins that trap the next link in place. The difference is, the thing you got to watch for though, this one is center line, these are not, so they are directional. So the holes in the link itself are going to be offset just a little bit. The hole in the center line. The part where the pins for the next track goes, a little bit to one side of it. So the corresponding pad is the same way. So that's just something you need to keep in mind, because if you don't, the pad's not going to fit on there properly. So with that, I'm going to continue putting these things together, get them done, and then I can mount them on the vehicle. All right, so the one track is the one, actually they're both done, and I've got them wrapped around. So here is what I've come up with, or I've run into. So the instructions, and this is one of the frustrating things about Dragon instructions and their inconsistencies, is nowhere does it say how many links you're supposed to use per side. So I assembled a link that looked roughly long enough, put it together, needed a few more links. So do that until when wrapped around it looked like it was getting close. So I wrapped it around the running gear, and then I was short. It looked like it was short a little bit. So I added one more link. That was too much. And this is what I ended up with. So I had to come up with a solution to fix this, because just gluing these down to the road wheel, it's not going to do anything, because it's way too long. And the thing is it's not really one link too long. It's like more like a half link too long. And that's what's frustrating about some of these kits, is some manufacturers include a way to maybe, you know, like on the idler, like say for an Asuka Sherman, for instance, where the idler mounts to the hull, it's set up like the real deal, and you can just put the axle in place. You get everything installed, including the tracks. Then you can pull that idler back a little bit to add tension if you need it, or push it forward to loosen the tension if you need it. Then you glue it and you're good to go. Well, this is all solid running gear here, so that option isn't available. Now you could cut axles and slide wheels around and all that kind of stuff, but then you end up with a weak axle, and the way I handle models, it's, you know, they can break off again. So here's what I've determined to do, and I've already experimented and tried it once, and it works, because this looked the same way as this not too very long ago. So here's the procedure. First thing I need to do is I need to determine where all this activity is going to take place. So what I have to consider is I need a good spot to glue a link to a couple of wheels. And it looks like right here is going to be it, because if I stretch this to where it's about the appropriate sag that I want, this one's kinking up because of all this extra track here. It looks like this link right here is going to be the one I want to leave. That's going to be my starting point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this track pad off right here, and cut this one off right here, and then I'll be able to disassemble this, pull this tight, and drop a track pad on there, in theory. So we'll see if that's going to happen. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this track pad off right here. And to do that, I am going to use my handy dandy, really sharp Tamiya cutter. Now hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing here, but you know, we don't know. Pardon the shakes, I've had 2 cups of coffee already this morning. So I'm going to get it as level to the surface of the track as possible. Just give it a snip like that, and boom, track pad is off. And with a little cleanup, it'll be reusable, so I won't have to get a new one. All right, so there we go. So the next thing I need to do is I need to get this track link apart, and it should just pop apart fairly easily because there's not any glue actually holding it. Let's see which side is on top. Okay, this is the overlapping part here, I believe, and this one's the one underneath. So this one on this side is the one that's overlapping, so it's just a matter of hopefully popping that out of there. Yep, there we go, just like that. Now this part is free to be moved where it needs to be moved. So what I'm going to do here is So I'm going to glue that, but I need to remove another link so they're not getting in the way while I'm trying to glue that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this one off the same way. So I'm going to use my tweezers to kind of pull this one out a little bit. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Here, let's do this. I think I can do it like this. I feel like I'm a dentist right now. And no, I'm no Paul Budzik. Okay, so there's that one removed. And then I can remove that link there. You may feel a little pressure. You may hear some cracking and popping. That's okay. The Novocaine is doing its job. So there we go. Now we'll still be able to get that together. All right, so let's look at that link. That looks pretty good. All right, so now what I can do, see now it relaxed that, so it's going to lay like it's supposed to. So I'm going to put this in place here. So I'm going to glue this one here first. Make sure that that looks pretty good. Put a little bit more glue because I want that to be a nice solid bond. And then I'll go ahead and put the glue here since it's already resting in place. Make sure everything's positioned correctly. Like that. Now I'm going to let that dry really good. Okay, back to the full disclosure channel. Looky there. Snap that stinking idler wheel right off. But not to fear. Is it a bummer? Yes. But it's also a challenge. And challenge accepted. So here's what I'm going to do. I think this may help me a little bit. So the links, some of them came apart. Again, not that big a deal because they fit together pretty well. So what I've done, I've already drilled a hole here because the axle broke. Because I was just pushing on it too hard and it snapped. So I drilled a hole there. And I'm going to drill a hole there. And then using this captured 1/48 scale B25 or B17, it must have crashed or something. So we've got this 1/48 scale machine gun, 50 caliber machine gun here, that the barrel would make a great axle. So I choose an appropriate size drill. I'll probably have to bore it out a little bit to get it to fit. But yeah, I'll have to bore it out a little bit. But anyway, I'll make an axle out of that. I'll drill a hole here. Then that will be able to fit on there. And I won't glue it just yet, but I'll slide it into place hopefully. Well, I may have to glue it, I don't know. But I'll put it in place and then I'll swivel it around and re-glue that link there. And then kind of spin that around and then reattach this and then continue on with this bit of shenanigans there. So we'll see how that works. All right, so success. I've got this drilled out and I have got this drilled out and this fits there nicely and it fits there snugly for some reason. Same drill bit, but it fits snug. So I'll probably glue it into that and then put it in place there. I hope it works. So let me get this thing cut down, kind of position it, see how it looks. There we go, it worked. So now the nice thing is I can spin this to get this glued into place. And then from there, I can work my way around. So I think what I'm going to do too is just to give me a little bit more slack. So I'm going to increase the gap right here just a little bit, just to make up a little bit more up there. So I don't know if you can see this on the video. Let's take a look. Watch right here. I've got a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so I'm going to add just a little bit and then glue it and let it set up really well. Then I'll keep working around. All right, and after much wailing and gnashing of teeth, there we go. Is it perfect? Not by far. There's a gap, but I'm not going to point it out. You'll have to find it yourself. So anyway, at least I got the tracks on. So yeah, that finishes up step number 13. All right, so got the tracks right and left done. Let's do a little test here and make sure that everything is sitting level, because if it is not, then I will be sore displeased. Okay, so let's see here. Ha, perfect. Perfect. So, a few little hiccups, but it is all good in the end. So, I think, because that took so long, about 25 minutes to be exact, I am going to call this quits on this video. And so ends part number 5 of the Dragon 1/35 scale SdKfz 251/21 drilling. As I said at the beginning, there will be a link. Of course, if you made it this far, it doesn't matter. There'll be a link at the end of this video and at the in the description box for a condensed version if you'd rather watch that. But again, if you've gotten this far, it's a moot point now. But anyway, that's it for this video. Next time when I come back, I will start with step number 14, which is the gun mount. So, as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and I'll see you all later.